Hello everyone. I am going to talk about something that happens in games where the player is presented with certain choices that can be made, and the way that the games present certain choices to the player. And I've noticed, I wouldn't say I've so much that I've noticed, but there seems to be this more of this common trend to really push certain ideas towards the player that make the player feel like they have significant choice. And I'm going to call this phenomenon, if it is a phenomenon, I want to call it the dichotomy, because basically that's what it is, where the game presents the player, you must choose this or this, and it does it in such a way that the player really feels that this is a huge part of gameplay, and this is a really good thing that the game is providing this. Now, aside from being a really strange and underrated Bad Religion song, the dichotomy is something where I feel that games are purposely trying to show off their ability to give the player choices, and choice in games isn't always a good thing. It really isn't. Choice can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how it's implemented, and depending on what the choices are and how much choice you've got. But there's this idea that choice is a really, really good thing, and that more choice is a good thing. But what happens is when games present this dichotomy, they are not necessarily providing you with a lot of choice or a lot of meaningful choices, but they just want to get it through to you that you are making a choice here. And I find this is more common in the Western RPGs, but I'm not as familiar with those types of games, really. But just the Western types of games, even the non-RPGs tend to do this. And this is where they present you with option A or option B. It can even be more than two options, but it straight up tells you you have a decision to make. I think one of the things that really emphasises this is when you have games with character creation, because they really emphasise things like right at the beginning. You start the game, you choose what type of character do you want. It might be, do you want to be an archer or do you want to be a knight? And the game presents you with two options, and it's like, choose one, choose this option or that option. And the game's really trying hard to say to you, look, you have an option here, you are going to affect the game. And it's all in the presentation. But if you really want to have a game with lots of different branching paths, and I don't mean storyline, I mean gameplay wise, if you really want to have it with lots of branching paths that can go several different ways, with all these different variables being tweaked along the way, then you wouldn't place such a strong emphasis on a single decision, because naturally you'd be presented with decisions quite frequently, and if it tried to make a big event out of every decision, then you would just see right through it. Like even the untrained gamer would see right through it. But I'll give the example of Final Fantasy V, because I was talking to somebody about this, and the example that I used with them was Final Fantasy V, because I think this is a really good idea. Now, the way that it works in Final Fantasy V is you have 4 characters, and you get 4 characters, and you go to the first temple, and you get jobs straight away. Now, jobs, I mean like roles that your characters can use in battle. So there's about 25-ish jobs in the game, and then once you've completed the first dungeon, you then get the first 6, and there are 6 jobs to choose from. At any point in the game when you're outside of a battle, you can choose which job to change to. You can change any character to any job at any time. When a character is of a certain job, it affects how they can equip things. Like certain characters, certain jobs can't equip certain types of weapons, and they've got different types of abilities. So for example, if you make somebody a black mage, they'll have access to black magic, and if you make somebody a knight, they'll be able to hold a weapon in 2 hands. Now, you can change at any time, as long as you're not in a battle. You can change a job for any character at any time. And you lose all of the abilities that you had when you were one class, and then when you switch to the other, you gain all the abilities that they've got. So if you have a knight and then you switch them to a thief, they'll suddenly have all the thief abilities that a thief has with it, and the knight, and they won't carry over the stuff from the knight. But you still do carry some stuff over in the sense that when you use a job class and you level them up and you get ability points, it will activate another ability. And the way that it works is that no matter what job you are, I mean there are a couple of exceptions that work slightly differently, but they're exceptions, so I won't necessarily go into those. But what happens is with the job you've got one extra ability slot, and any ability that you have learned in the past you can use one ability. So for example, a black mage, you might have a character that's a black mage and they have access to black magic. And if you're a black mage, you can use any black magic that you've gotten. So even if you've gone through the game and bought every black magic spell in the game, if someone's never used a black mage before and you turn them into a black mage, they can use all that black magic. If you level up a black mage once and then they learn black level 1, which means they can use level 1 black magic. And when you learn that ability, it goes into your list of learnt abilities. So you can then switch them to, say, a knight, so that they can have the attack power of a knight, and equip the ability black level 1, so that then they can use up to level 1 black magic. Now of course, you could, another alternative is to just stay as a black mage and just keep building up on the black magic level of the abilities that you've learned, so you can transfer more black magic from that job to another job, or you can change to another job, and you can do this at any time. Now of course, as you can imagine, with it being multiple characters and multiple jobs that you can change at any time and learn different abilities with every character and switch them all around and stuff, there's a lot of choice going on here. You're making a lot of decisions, and there's lots of different ways that the game can be played through. You might play through the game once and go through one path, and then you might play through the game and go through another path. There's so many different combinations, and even though certain combinations will be similar to each other, there are still lots of different combinations and lots of different ways to play through the game. Even if you do play through multiple times with the same jobs, you might use them in different quantities, or in different combinations, or with different characters, and because of this there's lots of different ways to play through the game. But to point out that the game doesn't ever, at least not to my knowledge, I mean, at least not within the job system, the game doesn't front load you with a decision to be made. Do you choose this or do you choose that? And because of this, the system can be used in all these interesting ways to develop in different ways through the game. But because the game doesn't flat out say you can choose A or B, it doesn't go up to you and say pick one of these now at a specific point in the game, some players will not appreciate the choice and the different paths that the game can take. And I think that's a real shame. I think it's a real shame when choice and different gameplay paths is determined by specific points in games where you are given a strict decision to be made. You are given this dichotomy of A or B. And of course a game can still do that and still be very interesting and still provide very, very interesting choices. I mean, even with just a few choices to be made, if those choices have enough variables and enough things about them that it can really make the decision a hard decision to make or a very debatable decision, then that can still be a very good mechanic. But I just wish that people would see through this thing of being presented with a choice, A or B, or A, B or C, and appreciate well, how do I put this, like more of like a spanning tree of different paths that things can take, not by a series of decide this or this, but by altering the different ways that they play through and changing things up as they go through the game. And I think I have made this as clear as I can. If you don't understand what I'm trying to say, please let me know. And If you've got any thoughts, please let me know, if you agree or disagree. So thank you for listening, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.